Hey everybody, it's Jochen Hayden, and today I'm going to be going over a new tutorial topic that was voted on in a poll on my YouTube page, and that is headquarters, their types, and their uses. Now, I have covered these before in other tutorials, but briefly. Today I'm going to go into a lot more detail about what each type is, how they work, and some ways that you can use them. Now, this isn't going to be an all-encompassing video on headquarters because, like every other topic I've done, headquarters is a giant onion with many layers to peel. So I'm going to give you the basics on this. This video is not intended for seasoned veterans of the game. You probably know all this stuff already. This is intended for new players or players with a similar skill level as mine, which is not that much, to have an idea of what these are and how to use them and how to tell the difference between them. So uh, what I'm going to show you now are some references that I'm using to help make this video. Okay, so my first reference is going to be about 100 different forum posts that I have read about headquarters. Okay, here's an example of one that's good, that has some good information, and I'll put a link to this particular post in the video description. But there are hundreds of posts on the Matrix forums, right? And if you want to know about headquarters, you can just go to the main forum for War Pacific and just type this in, headquarters, right? And then you can scroll through hundreds of different posts, thousands of posts about headquarters, and you can learn a lot from a lot of other players, okay? So that's one reference that I use here. The second reference that I'm going to use is going to be this, the manual. You can never go wrong. You remember RTFM? For those of you who've been in the United States military, you may have heard the acronym RTFM. Read the effing manual. Well, this game also has a manual that talks about headquarters, and a lot of the basic information of those can be found on page 178 of the manual. So this is definitely a reference that I'll be using to talk about these headquarters. And this is something you can refer to yourself anytime you want. Page 178. And the last reference point that I'm going to be using is my own personal in-game experience. So I've been playing this game for about 9 months now, 8 months, and I've learned a lot just observing and playing and doing stuff. So I'll be using that as a reference point as well. So let's talk about headquarters now. Okay, so let's start talking about headquarters. So in this game, there are 6 types of headquarters. Now, if you're Japanese, there's really only 5, but we'll talk about all 6. The first one is a command headquarters, which has no letter suffix after the type. Okay. The next you have is an air headquarters that has HQ with the suffix of A. The third type you will have is the core headquarters, which is an army ground unit headquarters, and that has a C by it. Okay, this is the smallest level of command for ground units. The next type you have, I'm going to skip over these real quick, is the Y, HQY, which is an army headquarters, which has more radius of command than a core headquarters does. The next to last is the HQN, which is a naval headquarters. And these have very specific uses. And they're probably the easiest to manage because they don't do much. And you can kind of put them in one spot and leave them and fire and forget. And the last headquarters type, which is more or less specific to only the allied player, is going to be the Amphibious Force Headquarters, HQM. I don't believe the Japanese ever get these at all, so it's not something that's going to factor into your equation if you're a Japanese side player. But as the American or allied player, the Amphibious Force Headquarters is very, very important for what you got to do. So we will talk about the Amphibious Force Headquarters last, since it's more or less specific to just the allies. So with that, we're going to get into, we'll start off with the core headquarters, right? So the core headquarters are Army ground headquarters. They have a command radius of 1, meaning they extend the benefits that they have to Army units within a hex radius of 1. So what are some of the benefits that they give you? Well, core headquarters help your ground units within range gain up to a 10% bonus in their assault value, whether they're attacking or defending. And some of the things that affect this bonus are the commander's skills, like his leadership, his inspiration, and his land numbers. Okay, the higher these are, the more pronounced the effect of the headquarters will have on the units within range. Okay, it's not critical that the units within range of this core headquarters are assigned to the same higher headquarters. Okay, that's not a thing. That doesn't affect the calculus of how these things work. In addition to giving you up to a 10% AV bonus in attack or defense, the core headquarters also typically come with a large number of support units, all right? So these support units are not for the purpose of this unit to use so much as to extend the bonuses to other units in the same hex. Same hex. For example, when you have a headquarters in the same hex, it adds some of this support value to other units in the same hex that may need it. And let me find one here. I'm scrolling through. There's so many different things here. Jeez. All right, let's find a unit that actually, how I can show you how this works. So let's look at this infantry unit. Okay. Do you see how this number is green? This is telling you that this unit is getting support from other adjacent units in the same hex, because on its own, this unit may or may not have enough support to do what it needs to do for itself. Right? This unit only carries 532 support, but it needs 586 to operate at full efficiency. So when you have a core headquarters in the same hex as another unit that is short on support, it can farm out some of its support units to adjacent units. So that's one benefit of having headquarters in the same hex as other units. Not always for the command bonus, but just for having extra support that the headquarters units bring with them, right? So this guy has 180. This guy here has 180. Almost basically none of it is required by the unit itself. All of these can be used on adjacent units in the hex that are short of support indigenous to themselves. See, whenever you see green, green is good. Green means that the unit is getting help from other units in the hex that have spare support. So that's one good benefit of a core headquarters, being in the same hex as other units. Okay, so that's the core headquarters. Let's talk about the army level headquarters. Okay, so remember, C is for core, Y is for army. The army headquarters is a higher level of command than the core headquarters. And you'll notice that the command radius of the army headquarters typically goes up quite a bit. So in this case, the command radius is 5, meaning this army headquarters can positively affect units within 5 hexes of this spot in attack and defense. And much like in core headquarters, the army headquarters gives you a 10% bonus in their assault value on attack or defense. And again, the same as the core headquarters, the army headquarters commander's stats play into those calculus. So the leadership, inspiration, the land values affect the assault value. Now, one thing to note is that these effects don't stack. Okay, if you have a core headquarters and army headquarters within the same radius of effect, it doesn't give you 20%. It's still 10%. It's one or the other. And then the game determines which level of command is present, and will use that commander's stats to run its calculations. So if you have an army headquarters in the same hex as a core headquarters, the army commander's stats will be used for the calculation to resolve the combat, since it's considered the higher level of command. So you need to keep that in mind when you have overlapping headquarters. Okay, it may not always be good to have multiple headquarters overlapping each other, because you don't know, if you're not paying attention, you don't know which commander's stats are going to be brought into the equation. And again, much like the core headquarters, these army headquarters typically come with a lot of support units, which can be used for units in the same hex to grab extra support. That's why all these units in Manila, for example, are deep in support, right? And this green support is going to help these units restore faster, right? When you're in full support like this and you have supply, you don't right now, but we will. These numbers in parentheses go away quicker and go back into fully working squad. So that's why it's always good to have lots of support in your hexes. So again, much like the Corps headquarters, the Army headquarters not only gives you that bonus, the 10% bonus for assault value, it gives you a lot of extra support that you can use for other units in the same hex. Okay, let's continue on to the what is it called? The command headquarters. And I don't even know if we have any here in Manila. Okay, we don't. So we'll go somewhere that we do, like Okinawa. Southwest Pacific, CHQ with no suffix. This is considered a command headquarters. Now, command headquarters have a lot of different uses, okay? The command headquarters has typically a command radius of 9. So within 9 hexes of this unit's location, it will help with attack and defense values. So here's something that you want to keep in mind with command headquarters. These complement Corps headquarters. All right. So if you have a Corps headquarters adjacent to a unit that's attacking or defending, and you have a command headquarters within 2 times its range, so up to 18 hexes away, it can provide a bonus of up to 90% of the assault value of attacking units. Okay, does that make sense? So within 18 hexes, if you have a Corps headquarters that is adding 10% to the calculation of a battle, the command headquarters can also give you up to 90% assault value bonus on attacking units. So it's always good to have a Corps headquarters within 18 hexes of combat. All right, it gives you that benefit. So in addition to the attack bonuses, there's even more that command headquarters do. So on top of that, command headquarters also act as like a magnet for supply. So whenever you have a command headquarters at a friendly base, it will attempt to draw up to an additional 25,000 supply to that base, in addition to whatever the base already needs for itself. So if you're looking to like attract supply to a base because you really want to build it up, or you need, let's say you're Japanese and you need to repair a city, but you need a ton of supply to do it, a command headquarters will act like a magnet to draw 25,000 more supply to that base while it's there. So that's always a good way to help bolster the supply level of a base, by having a command headquarters there. In addition to that, a lot of times these command headquarters also have not only regular support, but naval support, sometimes even air support. And we'll talk a little bit more about naval support when I get to the naval headquarters, but these things can like do it all, okay? In addition to that, command headquarters can also supply torpedoes to any aircraft at the base that require them. Normally you would need an air headquarters there, but if you have a command headquarters there, it'll do it for you without even having to load them up. That's just another awesome benefit of these command headquarters. And wait, there's more. Command headquarters also, when they're at a properly supplied base with 20,000 supplies, can act as a source of replacement for air groups, okay? They can help attract aircraft replacements to the base to help any air units that are there get them. And that's kind of like, and they kind of help circumvent some of the airfield size requirements for doing that. If you want to know more about that, look in the manual under section 16.2.3, and it will give you more details about how air units are get replacement aircraft, and it will tell you how a command headquarters can help you with that. And last but not least, a command headquarters can help units that are within the same hex re-equip themselves faster. So if you have units that are in need of replacements, let's say they've lost some devices during combat, if a command headquarters is in the same hex as a unit that has those replacement requirements, the replacements tend to go towards the hexes that have command headquarters in them, and they supersede other places that are requiring replacements that don't have a command headquarters. So put a command headquarters in a hex that has a lot of beat up units, and will help them replace their damaged or destroyed units faster. So I mean, there's a lot that command headquarters do. Check the manual, check that forum post that I talked to you about to get more, but they have a lot of uses and they're probably your most important and coveted headquarters that you get. So don't leave them out in the open to get sliced up, all right? Make sure they're always behind a lot of support infantry support so they don't get destroyed, because if you lose a command headquarters, you're losing a major important piece of your whole command structure. These things have so many uses. Don't lose them. Okay? Good. Let's continue on. We've got some more headquarters to talk about. Okay, let's talk about air headquarters, which are almost as complicated as the command headquarters for the ground, but we need to talk about it. First and foremost, a lot of times these air headquarters add aviation support in addition to the other benefits that they give you. So aviation support allows you to repair and restore aircraft that are at the base that this unit is at. So for example, if you have 50 aircraft there, I need 50 aviation support to ensure maximum repair and fatigue restoration of the aircraft that are at the base. When you have less aviation support than you have aircraft, it could take longer to get the aircraft repaired after a long mission or after they take battle damage. So one function of an air headquarters is to bring along aviation support. They also allow you to bring along torpedo ordnance. So this is important for aircraft that require torpedoes to do their missions. If you don't have a command headquarters at the base or a air headquarters at the base or within this command radius, which is typically 4 to 5, you cannot use torpedoes. So how do you do this is to add torpedo ordnance to an air headquarters. You have to do it manually. So you click here and you do it in numbers of 20, right? So you can't like do 100, right? It does nothing. You have to do it in 20. It's just a quirk of the game. It's kind of old code, right? So if I want to have 100 torpedoes available at the base, I have to do 20 5 times, okay? And as aircraft that use torpedoes fly missions and use torpedoes, you'll see this number go down. Now, if you want to automate this function, you can go over here and put auto limit. So this will automatically keep it at 100 for you all the time. But you want to be careful of this because these take supply to I don't know if it's either 5 or 10 or 20 supply per torpedo. So if you're at a base that doesn't have a lot of supply and you want to be kind of manage that yourself, I recommend that you don't use this. Leave it at 0 and just keep watching it and plus this up as needed so you don't burn up all your supply. So that's how you give torpedo ordnance. Let's talk about some of the other functions of an air headquarters, okay? They help by allowing more units to fly and be based at a type of be based at a base. So if you look at a base, right, they have administration levels and they have aircraft stacking levels, right? So the stacking limit of a base is typically 50 times the base level. So in this case, this base has a air capacity of 7. So 7 times 50 is 350. You can go higher than that if you have air headquarters stationed at the base. Okay. Now, obviously, we have so many aircraft here that the stacking level is even further than that. So having the air headquarters here is actually reducing this number lower than what it would be. And the stack level is based on the number of engines of each aircraft. So the reason why it's so high here, even though we only have how many aircraft are stationed here? Let's look. We have a ton. Okay. Each engine here. So these fighters, if they're single engine fighters, take 1 stack level. These level bombers take 1 stack level per engine. So you can see how crazy this can get, right? If we reactivate all, look at that now. Now that these are all active, the stack level gets crazy. And then when you have administration of stack levels that are this high, it affects how many aircraft can fly per day, how they get repaired, and the losses from operational losses go up dramatically when this is higher. These numbers would be even higher if we didn't have the air headquarters there. So placing an air headquarters at a base helps reduce these stack levels tremendously. Okay, so that's another function that they have. Also, uh, level bombers that go on strike missions will take a penalty of up to 25% less per mission if you don't have an air headquarters within command radius. So what does that mean? If I have this air headquarters, it can be within 5 hexes away and still provide a coordination benefit to those bombers going on strikes. Okay, within 5, that will ensure the maximum amount of bombers go out on their missions. If you don't have an air headquarters within 5 of this space, for example, you will suffer a 25% penalty to the amount of aircraft that go out per day. Okay, so and then that headquarters command radius determines how far away this can be for it to help those units. Okay. Uh, Also, all other strike missions by units outside of an area headquarters command radius will have their flying planes reduced by 10%. So level bombers, it's 25. All others, it's 10. Now, one thing that I do notice about air headquarters is it does not appear to be necessarily critical of the skills of the commander of that unit. That doesn't seem to play into anything. The bonuses come from having the headquarters there, not by the leaders of the unit itself. Now, I may be wrong, and if anybody that's watching this wants to correct me in the comments, I'll pin your comment. My understanding is, like naval headquarters, the commander isn't as critical as it is for ground units. All right. So one thing you have to keep in mind, and this is where it gets so complicated. Remember how I mentioned stacking limits? Well, some things have to happen to make that work. So if you want an air headquarters to give the maximum amount of benefit to the administration and the stacking levels of a base, okay, the air headquarters has to be assigned to the same overall headquarters as the base. So you notice here that this base is attached to Southwest Pacific, right? And this headquarters is attached to 5th Air Force, but let's see what 5th Air Force is connected to, Pacific Fleet. So this base is not getting the full benefit of this headquarters command radius bonus. So let me try to explain. Southwest Pacific is not in the same command chain as the headquarters that is at this base. So what does that mean? Normally, to improve the stacking limits, the headquarters can increase the base administration by up to 5, and it's based on the command radius. If this base is at, if this headquarters is at the base and it's not attached to the same higher headquarters as the base itself, it's only going to give you a command radius benefit of half as much. So I'm not entirely sure if it rounds up or down. I'd have to do some testing, but it's not going to be 5. It's either going to be 2 or 3. And those benefits go into stacking limits and the base administration limits. So what you would have to do is then change the headquarters to the same overall headquarters, which costs political points to do, as the air headquarters that is in the same command radius. So it would have to be Pacific Fleet, because in this scenario we can't change to Southwest Pacific because it's not even an option for us here. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind, is that if you want to get the full benefit of an air headquarters and everything that it brings, make sure that the bases within its command radius have the same higher headquarters as the actual air headquarters you want to get benefit from. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, ask me a question in the Discord. Give me your scenario, or in my Discord rather, or post your question in the comments, and I'll try to explain it better. It can be a little complicated. Just know that air headquarters are important. All right. In summary, they give you aviation support, which helps the actual amount of. Aviation support would be here. Okay, aviation support. This base has 1,000 aircraft assigned to it. All right. And we only have 784 aviation support, which means that every turn after the aircraft come back damaged, fatigued, worn out, it will take longer to repair them because we don't have enough mechanics, if you will, to fix each individual aircraft. Right? So having an air headquarters there helps bolster this number in addition to the engineers that are already there. Right? Like these aviation base forces. They have 90. Well, the air headquarters brings additional. Oh boy, that okay. So air headquarters are very complicated. I hope I covered them well, but there may be questions again. Like I said, ask your questions so I can answer them better. All right, let's talk about naval headquarters now. So naval headquarters are going to be headquarters that have an N by them, and these are a little easier to work with. Okay, they don't do a whole lot. Basically, what they do is they bring naval support, and just their presence here has a couple effects. So, what do? A naval headquarters at a base will help speed up ship repair time. So, if you have a ship that's either at pierside, stood down in the shipyard, the presence of a naval headquarters increases the speed at which they can be repaired. Okay. Um, So they're good at big bases, but they're also good at forward bases that you want to use that may not have a shipyard but are doing a lot of stood down pierside repairs. Having a naval headquarters there can help speed that up. They also bring naval support squads, and naval support squads are very important. They have multiple functions. One function is they can speed up the loading and unloading of ships at the port per turn. So for every naval support squad you have at a base, it adds 5 units of loading or unloading per turn. So at this place here, this guy can almost give you 1,250 units of additional loading or unloading support per turn for ships that are taking on cargo or unloading cargo. In addition to that, these help the base rearm level. So if you look at this base here at Okinawa, right? The rearm level is 1,500, and rearm level comes into play with different types of munitions, different types of ships. Uh, some ships have a rearm level that's very high, and it requires a very high rearm level to reload their main guns, like battleship main guns, torpedo armament, depth charges. Those all have a certain rearm level, which is in the manual. We could talk about that in another video. But having naval support increases this rearm level higher than the actual port capacity. All right, because if you were not having that naval support there, the rearm of this port would be very low. Okay, so we're getting about 1,200 and something extra rearm level just having the naval support there. So having a naval headquarters brings a lot of naval support in addition to the benefits of helping speed up repairs of ships. They bring a lot of naval support, which helps you rearm ships better and load and unload ships faster. Okay, the other thing to keep in mind with the naval headquarters is the commander does not matter. He gives no benefit to he gives no benefit to where are we at? Guam? Where's Guam at? Okay. The commander of the naval headquarters here does not give you any benefit. So you can put your crappiest, least important commanders in these things, and the naval headquarters will still perform any functions that it performs, regardless of the commander's skill. So put your dumbest commanders in the naval headquarters, and they'll still get the job done. Okay? If you have any questions about naval headquarters, let me know. But this is probably the easiest one to use because you just drop it and you let it go. You drop it at a base that you want it to have a lot of ships coming in out of it and let it do its thing. It will help repair faster. It'll help load or unload faster, and that's it. Okay, that's all they do. All right, so the last command level headquarters that we're going to talk about are amphibious force headquarters. Now, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, these are kind of specific to the Allies. I am not aware of any Japanese amphibious force headquarters. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Let me know. And if I'm wrong, then this whatever I'm saying about this applies to the Japanese as well. But I don't think it does. So, amphibious force headquarters help an amphibious invasion suffer fewer losses, and it helps the invasion forces land their troops faster out of the ships with less disruption when they hit the beach. Okay. Now, something to keep in mind is amphibious force headquarters is not the same as an amphibious headquarters. Let me give you an example. Okay. Look at this. We have some core headquarters that are called amphibious core. Don't be confused. This is a core headquarters. It gives you no benefit that the amphibious force headquarters does. This is just a core headquarters. That's all it does. It's got to have an M by it for it to do amphibious force tasks, okay? Um, they do not function as a core or a command headquarters. They only help with unloading during an amphibious invasion and helping keep cohesion so that more of your troops get off the ships faster with less disruption and you take fewer casualties when they are present. Here's how you use them though, okay? You do not unload these with the rest of the task force. They just need to be in the same hex as an amphibious invasion that you're conducting, and they have to be on a certain type of ship. Take a look at this. They have to be on AGCs, okay? Not an AGP, not an AG, not an AK, not an AP, an AGC, amphibious command ship, all right? So, you see that? Sorry about the noise. A troop capacity 2,500, amphibious headquarters, okay? The only kind of troops that can be loaded on these are amphibious force headquarters. So for the amphibious force headquarters to give all the benefits to an amphibious invasion, they have to be loaded on AGCs, okay? That's the only way they'll work. And make sure when you move them in the same hex as the rest of your amphibious invasion, they do not unload. They only give the benefit to your amphibious invasion if they're on the actual amphibious ship, the AGC, the amphibious command ship. If you unload them, it's all out the window. Now they're just acting as a bunch of extra support, and they don't help with cohesion, okay? And the only way these work is amphibious command ship with an amphibious force headquarters, okay? Make sure you load only amphibious force headquarters onto these AGCs. All right. Now you can use AGCs for other things, right? You can use them for loading cargo and other stuff, but if you want to get their full value out of them, put the amphibious force headquarters onto these. Make sure they're in the same hex as whatever base that you're invading with the other troops, and they will give you the benefits that I mentioned. Okay. And again, as far as I know, only the Allies have these. It's very important that you listen to what I'm saying about how those are to be employed, because if you don't employ them properly, they won't work. And a lot of times these amphibious force headquarters have a load cost of around 2160 or so. You see 2160. They may be a little bit different, but they may not be. So those amphibious AGCs that I showed you should fit these all in one go. I am not entirely sure what happens if you split up amphibious force headquarters on the multiple ships. I don't recommend it. I would assume that if the amphibious force headquarters is present in the hex in its entirety, even if it's split amongst like two AGCs, it should work, but I wouldn't trust it. That would require a very high level of testing that I just don't have time to do. So save yourself the hassle and make sure you put the amphibious force headquarters on one single AGC and make sure that's in the same hex as the other ships that are unloading, and you'll get the benefit. All right. If you have any questions about that, please ask me either on Discord or in the comments here, and I'll try to clarify it. So to summarize this video, we talked about the 6 different types of headquarters: command headquarters, air headquarters, core headquarters, amphibious force headquarters, not amphibious core headquarters, amphibious force, naval headquarters, and army headquarters. Not in that order, but that's what we discussed. I hope that this video helps you kind of understand how these headquarters work, how they're important, and why they're important, and how you can use them. If you have more questions, please don't hesitate to ask. The manual is page 178 if you want to know about these things. And also, I will link a pretty useful forum post in the description, but there's also more than just this post. There's hundreds of different posts and topics about headquarters in the forums. I highly recommend you skim through them if none of your questions were answered here or in the posts I provide. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching this channel. We're getting a lot of subscribers, and I love it because my whole goal and intent with this channel is to help new players like you who are watching this learn the game better. I want more people playing this game. It's 20 years old, but so what? It's still so great, and there's nothing else like it out there. So the more people that I can help get better at this game means there's more opponents for me to play. There's more people enjoying this thing. So that's why I'm doing these tutorials. So the next tutorial topic that I'll be doing is going to be about air unit resizing, because that was the second most asked about video topic. So that's what we'll cover next. But in the meantime, enjoy this one. It went longer than I wanted, but there's so much to say. We'll catch you on the next one.